I haven't heard from her. You?
No. You didn't want to wait a few minutes?
We'll wait 1 minute and then we'll
Just
start.
one? Okay, they were.
See, your signs are all tie as it was. We all have a staple on wires now. It
Yeah.
goes to the,
Yeah. I still like the wire.
yeah.
Those hold up, but. Yeah.
Thanks for sending that out to Bruce.
Yeah, I didn't know how to approach it, so I just.
Sounds like a good deal for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's checking the word count, so, well, from here, I need to go to, report.
Did some plays yesterday, man, that was fun. Been about years since I shot. Killed some plays. Play pigeons. They did, like, it's been a year since I shot.
Yeah.
Really?
I bet you haven't shot a gun in
Which I,
Yes.
20 years.
we gotta get going.
Seriously?
I'm just sitting down.
I mean, I hate gun, well, you know, used to as a kid,
You just have to
do it your
make sure you
career,
do a
you're
word
forced to
count,
go.
because they're very tight.
Yeah, she was
Like
seven.
when I walk away.
History pages.
Yeah, you go real full of shit, people just think, if you want to talk about guns, I could care less.
Wow.
It used to be back in the day.
Yeah, it's due.
I'm not against them, I just.
No, this is not.
Ty, I'll be right back.
Okay. Anymore.
So where is this account?
Yeah, that's right, I was shooting your shit. It's even a 20 gauge and still my shoulders like.
Part of it, I think that's my hearing problem. They don't give me equipment.
Oh, good.
You know,
Yeah.
this year not wearing
How am I
it.
supposed to shoot?
Yeah, and I thought that we would cancel, there's so
Yeah.
much when I shoot.
Oh,
It's still really
Yeah,
nice.
somebody will tell
I
me.
got 3 in a row
If I need it.
with my son, and he just bought a shotgun 20 gauge.
See, and I don't get, you know, anymore.
Yes.
My brothers. I mean,
If you're working like
Two times with my family, it's war. Mushrooms and deer. Everybody fights over everything. I just, you know.
Sounds like my brother Joe. My brother Joe's terrible. I won't, I'm anywhere near him.
Ready, Jen?
Yep.
The dinner is terrible.
Light. Blame on people.
Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Robbins,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton, absent. Commissioner Bailey. Here. Chairman Mussel,
Here.
Commissioner Solis Little,
You're muted.
Muted.
There we go. I am here from Lake Leelanau and happy to say that my husband is here with me, well enough to return from the hospital. So I'll be with you next week in person.
Commissioner Elgar. Here. Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
Any public comment this morning, this afternoon? Any commissioner comment? Well, that Commissioner Rushton, I did not receive a text, but I assume she's on her way. Our meeting today, we have 8 agenda items. We need to end up with item number 7 and 8, make sure we get to that. If we don't get to all the others, we'll add those to our next meeting. Commissioner Lautner and I must leave at 3:30. So we will meet from 1:30 until 3:30 and would ask all of us to remember that we have to set the dates and the future meeting topics before we adjourn. Okay, good. So we'll go to the first agenda item, and that is our undersheriff, the motor pool funding. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
I don't want these to interfere with your,
Thank you. I didn't think they would, but that's okay.
with the visuals for your presentation.
It's your show.
Okay, well, I was hoping mostly for questions, but this year the sheriff's office has put in a request for 4 vehicles. It'd be 3 patrol cars, which is the usual rotational order.
Undersheriff, maybe you could begin with, just for everybody's purposes, how many vehicles you have? And then get into your regular placement, schedule, et cetera.
So I believe we have 26 vehicles in the fleet.
26 in the fleet and
And rotationally, Sutton's Bay is kind of out, they're in the fleet, but in the rotation, they're kind of outside because the way the contract is set up, they only pay the high mileage rate. So that's always an older car. Lieutenant Roush's cars is strictly an administrative car. That is a high mileage car that is outside the usual rotation, which actually is part of this year's request. 2 of the cars that we would normally sell will go to replace the Sutton's Bay car and replace Lieutenant Roush's car. So they will be older vehicles going for sale next year, but prices are still elevated. And then we would have,
the other 2 will go for auction.
correct, along with one other used one, who were fortunate enough to be approved, and then the marine truck. So we did ask for 3 cars this year, along with the marine truck. The current marine truck is a 2006.
Could we just remind everybody, this is page 9 of our supplemental information book. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The current marine truck is a 2006. It has approximately, and this would have been around the 1st of the month, 127,000 miles on it, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that truck is 16 years old. For a good part of almost every year it sits. As we all know, like a lot of things, you don't use it, they don't tend to act as well. And historically, I don't have the facts in front of me, but I think we could show long-term that cars with mileage north of 125 become more trouble than they're worth keeping. We tend to push our cars into the 130s, 135, somewhere in there. All of the vehicles that would be traded out are all, one is 135,000, one's 148,000, the other one is 133,000. So they're all on that end where maintenance costs start to really live and outdo the practicality of holding on to them.
Are you truly getting maintenance costs? Because that's not, in my world, that's not very many miles. 2006, I buy as an old truck,
Right.
but 130,000 miles, you're just getting going somewhere else.
But these, almost all our cars are pursuit vehicles. They're not the car that any one of you get into and drive here to the meeting and back. At any given time, they have to be able to go 100 miles an hour and be top notch and ready to go. Everything has to be working as it should be because they're pursuit rated vehicles that liability with that is through the roof. So the vehicles have to be as good at 125,000 miles as they were when they got delivered.
So it's a safety issue for you.
It's a safety and a liability issue. I mean, we can't have a tie rod failing or brakes giving out when you're chasing somebody because.
So to your point, when they're still great cars for.
Right, they're great for a
Yes.
civilian to use and you could probably get a lot more life out of them.
Their purpose.
That's why they go, Sutton's Bay's usually is still a pursuit vehicle, but like I said, we try to put a vehicle there that's over 80, less than 130. And he only puts on average 40 miles a shift on because it's a small village.
Right.
Lieutenant Roush's is not a patrol vehicle, it's an administrative vehicle. Also in that fleet, of course, there's the jail transport van. That's not a pursuit vehicle. That's higher mileage. The animal control truck, that's not a pursuit vehicle. There are 20 primary pursuit vehicles and 2 fleet vehicles, so 22 that we try to keep at higher than daily driver levels, I guess you could say.
So the non-pursuit, what is your goal for mileage there? Are you willing to bump that one up?
Well, and we do.
Cars are different than they were 30 years ago. They're more reliable.
Right, and we do, but on the same token, we have been very good about keeping our maintenance costs down. I mean, when you get north of 130, then you're getting into tie rods, bearings, things of all that nature, because even though they are higher miles and we keep the vehicles in good shape, parts wear out that don't normally wear out in daily driver cars for most citizens. I mean,
For the non-pursuit vehicles?
yes, because they came from that environment though. You know, they are living their second life and maintenance costs still go up, whether it's bearings or seals or tie rods, ball joints, all that kind of thing. So,
It's a sweet spot for us, get the best price for those used.
no,
vehicles.
and it is. We've worked hard. I mean, as you all know, or most of you know, I mean, we're doing seat covers now, which we didn't do before. That's part of resale. The $600 that we put into the seat covers, we more than see back when the seats aren't wore out from all the gear and everything else. So normally we would ask for 3, maybe 4 cars. It is 3 cars this year. And then the marine truck, which is, like I said, it's a 2006. It has about 127,000 miles on it. We have had it in the shop for 3 or 4 different things already this summer because
Starts happening. So the question will be is we need to probably bump what we charge you for to keep the motor pool. The motor pool is not sustaining itself. So this might be what she's handing us. Is this a recommendation?
Yeah.
right, and I understand that, and I'm good with that. I mean, I also understand I don't want to say it's a shell game, but it is. We raise the
Yes.
budget and in turn you give me the money, which I turn around and repay you. So I understand that. And I'm fine with that process.
Okay.
I can, just 1 second, if
Yep.
you don't mind. Patricia, I sent you an email just a couple minutes ago regarding the information that I passed out to the commissioners. I've run what is a proposal that I think should, Jared and I talked about this morning, to kind of do an autocorrect for 2022 and then more investigation in 2023, because there's a couple of concerns that he and I both are kind of thinking of. And so I didn't know if you saw that yet, Patricia, in your email.
No, thank you for that, flagging it. I will check it right now. Thank you.
Okay. So what I've given you, and I've talked over with Jared this morning, is I've given you a revenue and expense report. It's year-to-date as of September 30th. There is no lease income that's on here right now because we don't, he won't be booking that until probably the first week in October to put back to September. A couple things that I have here is on the second page. The second page is the current trial balance. Again, the month isn't final, but you'll see on the second line below where it says cash marine. That $5,200 we talked about in a previous board meeting to allocate towards the boat purchase. That $5,200 has not yet been transferred into the general fund. So my recommendation with Jared is that we move that marine cash up into the actual cash or the motor pool. That then will bring that marine down to 0 until you sell the next boat. In doing that, we would submit a proposal for an amendment to transfer in $94,800 from the general fund, and I would take that, my proposed and his proposed is to take that from contingency of this year. So a couple things that,
Back up.
yep,
So
go
you
ahead.
want to, you need 95,000 basically
Yes,
for 2022.
yes. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
So,
I can too.
a couple things, yeah. So a couple things that the sheriff and Jim had talked to me about in January is we ran into a predicament where for years, as long as I've worked here, probably as long as Jim's worked here, you always were able to rent your TNT vehicle from the state of Michigan.
Yep.
Now that the employee is not a state of Michigan, there's a rule or regulation or guideline
Change the rules.
that doesn't allow that. So in January, we discussed you purchasing a pickup truck for TNT. That he told me this morning came to $40,000, almost $41,000. So that we knew was coming down the pike. He said the truck will be ready within this month and next month. What we didn't anticipate was all that wonderful money that we put into the buildings and grounds 2007 plow truck. And that the board decided finally after repairs in November and December, you're gonna go ahead and purchase that vehicle. So in essence, you have close to 85,000 that was not allocated. There was no revenue because Jerry's 2007 truck stopped paying in years ago. And the marine truck that Jim's talking about now, like Jim is saying, from May to September, that's the only time you're recouping your mileage. So you're getting 10 cents because it's over 80,000. You don't have revenue. And that was something that goes way back. Melinda would be the only commissioner. David Gill at the time, back in either 5, 6, or 7, when I just started here, decided that instead of using an old patrol car to move, because they had the Ford Crown Vics to move the boat to go somewhere, that they wanted to purchase a truck. So we purchased one truck. At that time, back in 06, 7, 8, 9, we had boat slips almost everywhere. So you just took a fleet vehicle, the deputy drove to the slip, got on the boat, and went out and patrolled. With access to more lakes, the sheriff has decided that we tow the boats and we don't have slips except for in Leland Harbor.
In
Correct?
Sutton's Bay.
In Sutton's Bay.
Two-
So
two-
your two larger boats, instead of the smaller the whalers, you're pulling them to the boats around that area. So there is the need for the truck, which is not something that you cost allocate for. That marine truck probably never recoups the money that was bought for in 06 till now at 2022, 2023, and you're gonna be paying 40. I didn't see your proposal.
4170, I think is the
4170.
price.
So my thought and my speaking with Jared this morning is if you pull from your contingency in 2022, we bump that fund up into going into the January cycle, 4 months of revenue. You should have about, I think we figured 210, I think we kind of figured out in January, knowing that when Jim goes to purchase, the undersheriff goes to purchase, that cash won't be till, let's say, May. So the
Delivery on the 3 cars.
correct.
Well,
And then on the truck as well, because they'll probably come separate.
And the truck is a marine truck
Yes.
Correct.
for 42,000.
40,170.
Yeah,
41,000.
yeah.
Okay.
So with that process being said, when Jared and I were talking this morning, when we're looking at the 10 cents and the 30 cents, it's a wonderful idea just to say, hey, let's raise that. One of the situations he and I were discussing is, that sounds awesome, except you have how many vehicles purchased? You have 4, 5 this year that are all gonna be brand new at 30 cents a mile. And you'll have 4 next year at 30 cents a mile. So what we don't want to see in a cost allocation plan is if you bring in too much.
So you think that's gonna replace itself?
I think Jared and I
We'll have
talked.
that
I
extra
think-
revenue from the newer cars, so
Yeah.
that'll really help
I
us.
think he could do somewhat of a study, go back, he won't have time between now and March, because he's extremely busy, with budget and then audit.
Transferring 94,000, so basically we're
Yeah.
transferring
This-
94,000 upfront, and then
Exactly.
with new vehicles, we should be back on track.
That's my thought process. I
Yeah.
think it'd be great for him to study, how many miles are these cars going, what is it if it's, like I looked this year, I have a cost allocation that I ran and Jared and I talked about this morning. It looks like these vehicles for this year were about 36.
36, yeah.
Yeah, so, and now you're looking next year at about,
44 just for the straight car.
right, so that's already an increase. But I think we need to get on a plan of, if you're replacing a truck, the truck that used to cost you 25 is now costing you 43. The Ford at 36 is now 44, and really get a handle on this so that you have a plan.
And that's just the car. I mean, I have
Yeah,
six
that's
vendors I go through to outfit them, from stickers to equipment to lights to, I have it all broke down, obviously, and then we have,
We have enough in there to
Yeah,
outfit them?
from what he's proposing.
yeah,
Okay.
that 217 or whatever it is covers
Yep.
everything.
One thing I do like, we talked about, I like that we're going to own our TNT card. We were paying a lot when we were leasing per month, and we didn't get really anything.
No, you just paid for it.
And ideally, this marine truck, if it were to be purchased, it's gonna last another 14 to 16
yeah.
years like this one did.
Oh, it's good, yeah.
And we've got the boat that hopefully will sell, and that can help us get some more money in there too.
Although most of that sales going to the motor, or supposed to go to the motor, but depending on how it comes in, right?
Okay.
Jared, thank you for coming to the table, because when we're done with this, we'll want to hear a recommendation.
Two on the cars, obviously Jen's already touched on the price of the cars. We did take a serious look at General Motors too. Obviously the Tahoe would be the comparable pursuit rated vehicle, and prices are comparable. However, you're talking equipment and outfitting them is completely through the roof, because nothing will change over. Now, I buy some equipment for cars every year. That's because some of the lights have been on the exterior of old patrol cars for the last 4 to 5 years, and the equipment needs to be replaced. Almost everything inside stays the same, short of the consoles, because there's been redesigns. But siren boxes, PAs, light control boxes, those all get transferred in. Radios, we don't buy any new equipment like that. It's mostly just exterior stuff that weather takes its toll on after 4 or 5 years. So we still do buy some equipment, but it's not a full outfit. If you had to fully outfit a car like a GM, we're talking 15,000 on top. Plus GM is expecting a full redesign next year, and they are well aware that Ford bumped their prices double-digit percentages, and they're behind the 8 ball. So next year Chevys are gonna, I mean, it'll probably be 50,000 just for a base vehicle at the government contract rate, which all of our pricing is. So
Wow, so you stick with Equinox then, or?
the Explorer base is what it is. Yes.
So if I may, so what you're proposing then is we keep the mileage the same,
Stay at the 140,
stay at,
or stay at the 30 cents and the
30
10
cents.
cents up to about
okay,
140.
okay,
And at 80,000 is where it changes over
yeah,
for that mileage rate.
and drops.
It's the two unbudgeted ones this year. One was ours with TNT, and the other maintenance truck that really threw everything
Yeah,
out of sorts.
Commissioner Evans, did I see your hand up?
Couple questions on the pickups. I know we're getting a police package for TNT.
Correct.
And I know it's already been approved, and I thought about it, and I don't know if that was our best move, having a police package. I mean, TNT vehicles are, let me finish, please. TNT vehicles are a lot different than our patrol vehicles. I mean, when that officer, he or she, they could be in Detroit tonight. I mean, they put on a lot of miles. They cover 7 counties and not just in Leelanau County. So how long is that vehicle gonna last us?
I say easily, you should still get at least 5 years out of it. And it isn't the police package, but because in theory, those vehicles will have some capabilities similar to the patrol cars. Although you won't know it. It won't look any different than any other F-150 out there. I mean, it's been changed to not look or have the badging of a police interceptor per se. So,
Marine pickup, is that a police package or?
no, it is not.
So why did we go to a police package for undercover vehicle and not for a marine vehicle that's probably gonna go license driving?
They never do though, or seldom do, and not in a pursuit. Now, will they be up going 70? Well, probably not even that fast, because if they are, they're towing a boat. So they're not doing a full pursuit, that kind
I
of
also
thing.
know that adrenaline kicks in and they're going faster than you
Yes.
want.
And the current Marine Patrol truck is an off the lot government priced general truck.
I mean, I just feel like for our TNT vehicle, for a buck, we probably should lean more towards a vehicle instead of a pickup.
But I can tell you the difference in quoting, we actually got the police one cheaper because of the pricing that went up. I mean, the truck for next year is quoted at 45, the Marine truck is 45,318. The TNT truck was 40,170. Now, there are variations in how we outfitted them, obviously. But the price I mean, we can't control the price. The government price is a government price. Everything is black too, because I mean, the sheriff is looking for uniformity. That truck is an 06, the current one. Obviously, we've changed from the white to the black, so that's why that's black too.
We've read your material. Jared, what's the recommendation? Jen and Jared, what's the recommendation?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of built up for years, kind of having this come down, and this is what the contingency line item is for. A lot of years we might not use it at all, but when we need it, we've budgeted for it already. So this 94,000 coming in is where that would come from. It would get us set up all for next year, and then we begin really building that motor pool back up with the new vehicles charging these higher mileage rates. So I think the 95,000 is gonna get us to where we need to be, and then our motor pool will go up from there, allowing us to buy the vehicles that we need as we get the rising prices, in the next couple of years.
You said contingency then? Or
Yeah, that's where we were gonna expend this.
general fund? General fund, okay.
Yes.
So, all right, so we have a general fund right now.
Normally, there's about 400 and some thousand in the contingency that we put in, and as far as I know, I don't think we've used it at all this year, right? So
But we can't pull it out of general fund. Okay.
And as far as those rates go, I don't know where that 80,000 comes from. Maybe Jen can, I mean, back in the day, when we only had 4 or 5 patrol cars, and every year we replaced every one, it was, I know you've mentioned this in a previous meeting. Those cars would run 24/7, 365, and every year they would be sold with 80,000 miles on them. I mean, now we get 4 or 5 years out of them. So I don't know if there's an IRS thing where the break is 80,000, or if
I think it's an
can tell you why.
internal.
So back before you cost allocated, yeah, it came right from your sheriff's budget. So it made you look nice and heavy.
so.
When you purchased $216,000.
I mean, if that 80 was bumped a little higher, I mean, it would give you more time and more money recouping in the life of the cars. That's just my suggestion.
You're suggesting, wait, you have to bump it down, you're bumping it up to, you want.
Like 80 to
30
100.
cents at
It's like 80
100,000
to
maybe?
100, recoup
Yeah.
30 cents a mile up to 100.
100,000. And I think that that's certainly something that Jared, because I think.
Yeah, when we
he's
put
gonna
that
have to get
together.
with you in 23 and really figure out if we're replacing, because we knew this was gonna be an issue when your Crown Vics used to be 26 to 28 to 30.
Right.
And now you're at 46 to 50, that this wasn't, we've already made an adjustment to 1030. A couple years ago, it was it was less than that, but.
And in the upcoming years, we will be looking at, 3 to 4 cars a year still, but the animal control truck is within a year or two. We've started to see some mechanical issues with that, and it's at 118,000. The jail transport van is at 120,000. Now that one's not as high priority, but that will need to be looked at here in the next couple of years too. Now that's the 2011. So we have 6 or 7 older cars that every 8 to 16 years we need to replace. So
To go back, so what you're saying is we will potentially look at, instead of the mileage at 80,000 drops to what do we pay? Does it go to 10 or does?
10.
It goes from 30 to
10.
10.
I didn't know if there's a middle, I don't remember if there's a middle,
No.
because that's another option, is maybe to go to 20 cents
And
to 100,000.
my recommendation with Jared this morning is, it's kind of like, we haven't done a cost study in a while. And so what are we purchasing these at? How much revenue is this getting us? Because you have the potential of the patrol vehicles going home. And that's all well and said, that's the policy. But you have some vehicles, let's say, that might put on 1,500 a month, and you might have some that have 3. So I think if Jared can take the time, which we all know we're in budget right now until December, and then he has audit until April. So somewhere between audit and the next budget cycle of June, he would be able to kind of do a cost study for you and make a recommendation of, it might be that it stays 10 and 30, but it goes to 100,000. It might be that Jerry's truck that only goes 10 miles and is brand new isn't going to be the same as the sheriff's vehicle at 130,000 miles.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going.
Yeah, I like that.
I completely agree that you need safety for people going through the fence. That's not a question. Just a caution thought. When you've got a vehicle with 118,000 and it has a repair cost, it's much cheaper to repair things occasionally that aren't safety oriented vehicles. They're not, I don't think you're doing a lot of chases with something like,
No,
having your car fixed occasionally is just what life's about. And I don't think we have to have a standard that our cars have to be perfect all the time when we sell them.
I would agree. We just have learned historically, I mean, we have a $30,000 maintenance budget that pays for these repairs. I can tell you historically, I don't usually spend that. I would say half or a little over. That's always in the black. We just get to the point of over 120, 125,000 where the repairs are far more significant. I mean, you're into the tie rods and the bearings and things of that nature, because even these cars, they have a rough life. If they're making traffic stops, it's hard on the front driver's side wheel because they're always turning, doing J turns on the highways. I mean, there are things that those cars go through that regular cars do not. It's like a postman's
I'm
car,
not talking about patrol cars.
right?
I'm not talking about those. I get that you have to have ultimate safety there. We want our guys safe. I'm talking about the other ones. That's just a fact of life that sometimes cars have to be repaired.
Oh, absolutely.
I encourage you to lower your standards for other cars.
Well, and over the last couple of years, it's been good because several other departments have used those cars for long-term second lives, whether it be commission on aging or inspections. And we're still realizing some decent value out of the sales. That is always the balance of the resale versus the purchase of new, how much we can put back in.
And how much do you expect those to sell for in the next year? The ones that you're getting rid of?
Well, some of those are higher mileage, like the inspection cars we have. The ones that come straight off the road and go straight to auction, those are, this year, they sold for about $10,000 a piece.
Yeah, even the high mileage ones, we've been up around
Correct.
7 and 8.
The ones she just got rid of that
sweet
that
spot.
were around 200,000, we got about 4,000 piece for. So we used to get that for regular cars
Yep.
straight off the road.
Yeah,
Prices have went up both sides, purchasing and reselling.
Yes.
So for short distance utility vehicles, are you considering some electric vehicles in the future soon?
Problem is,
You have to.
I mean, there's nowhere in the county to, I mean, the county closes, especially, we're getting in that time of the year where technically there is not a single store in this county open 24/7. Holidays not even open 24/7 now. Speedway maybe. We don't have the capability to do that. And on an average,
Electric vehicle and putting a charge point here would be an advantage then.
potentially, but on an average 12-hour shift, the guys will put anywhere from 200 to 400 miles on. You can't go a full shift in an electric vehicle that far. We have looked at it.
Yeah, I was looking at the vehicles that are not doing the long trips, like that transit van. We probably don't make long trips on that.
That just went to Calhoun County last Thursday for probate court.
Yeah,
That was a 700-mile trip,
okay.
which I'm not opposed to it. The problem is we don't, I mean, do we pay employees to sit there for 3 hours while it charges? You know,
They're not there yet. I
Right.
just,
Yeah, we're gonna get there probably. Suddenly, everybody will get there at the same time.
and that is the trend in law enforcement.
Yeah.
But most of the places that are doing it are cities and metropolitan areas where charging stations, or they have a fleet that is approximately 25% bigger than it used to be. Because why they have vehicles charging,
Yeah.
the other cars can be out on patrol. So I don't think it's quite there yet either.
Yeah, the cost for those electric vehicles, have you looked
It's
at those?
also higher. The average price is about 80 for the patrol ones versus, yes,
In the winter, you're not getting the 250 miles on in the winter. They're getting
Right.
much less.
we're not the ideal environment always for them either.
Commissioner Rushton, thanks, glad you made it. Want
Yes.
to catch up?
I had a 2 o'clock on my calendar instead of a 1:30, so I apologize for being late.
Mr. Rabbit.
Sir, if you mentioned some that I'm concerned about, because I know last year we went into budget, not with your department, but on a pickup truck for maintenance, and it looked like everything's gonna be fine, and then midterm, they find out we gotta get a pickup truck. And you mentioned Wayne's pickup truck. I mean, now's the time. I mean, how long is that pickup truck gonna last?
It's probably on my radar for next year.
Yeah.
He had a check engine light that came on last week. It didn't, I didn't know till the next day. We got it into Ford and it's in the top end of the motor. It's a known problem for that particular model and year from 17. They were able to do some maintenance on it. And to be honest, right now, I've got my fingers crossed, because if it goes bad, we can fix it, but it's about $2,000 to fix it.
What should we be looking at when you talk about the pricing?
It's 118,000 miles. Of course, with that truck, we can't just pull the dog kennel out of the back of it because they've redesigned the bed. So there's another, in 2017, that was a $7,000 insert. Today, it might be 10. It is on my radar, but it's for 24. I think it'll make it. Ford assures me they can, I have the money to fix it, should it go bad and we have to do the big fix. But it is definitely gonna be in my request for 2024, a new ACO truck.
So it'll be, so you'll put it in the 2023 budget to purchase in 2024?
I will budget it for 2024, which, yes, like this is 2023, I'm asking for these vehicles in
The
22.
next year.
I mean, if and when these are approved finally, then I put in my final order. Patrol cars are anywhere from 6 weeks to 4-month delivery. Trucks are awful. We actually ordered that TNT truck in February and it's still not here.
We're not making decisions today. Do we have enough information now to move on to the next issue? Thank you very much.
Yep.
Jared, why don't you just stay there? We now have Matt Ansberg. Thank you.
Okay. See if I can get you back on track or maybe ahead of schedule on this. First item is the 911 dispatch consoles. This project actually has to coincide with a carpet replacement in the law enforcement center. Jerry's been working to replace the carpet throughout the building. He's going to do the sheriff's office side. He was supposed to do it this year. That's been delayed a little bit. The squad room should be performed in the next month or two. I have a lot of reservations that the rest of the building is going to be done in 2023. I had a conversation with Jerry this morning. I would feel a lot better if we could have the portion of the law enforcement center done so that we can see how that carpeting holds up before we put it into dispatch. So I don't see this as being a 2023 project. I think that this is going to be pushed until at least 2024.
Is carpet the best move or is that soft vinyl the next?
I say carpet, this is more of a rubber
Okay, that's
composite.
what-
Yeah,
all right.
it'll hold up against spills. Actually, it's static buildup. We won't have the static shocks that we get from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have a problem getting the product? Or just getting the job done?
I don't know exactly what the delay was for the install on the sheriff's office side. I just know that it was delayed. Yeah, I'm sorry, I do not know that.
So you don't want your consoles until you replace the floor?
Yeah, I don't want to have to take the consoles out more than once because they will have to be taken out in order to replace the carpet. And it's a big ask. We will be moving our operations to the mobile command center during that time. It could be a week. And we'll be right outside the building and whatnot, but it's still not going to be ideal. So if we can do that just once, that's my goal.
There's building in the sheriff's office, which it is the entrance down the main hall, where the deputies come in, and then the squad room and the sergeant's office, which is the original card room from 05.
Mhm.
24/7 use, and there wasn't a delay as much as when they put it in, we're 7 to 10 days where everything is hauled out. People are working, it's gonna be a mess. So we pushed it to after summer was over, when things weren't as busy. So it wasn't really, it was a delay by our own making. It
I
wasn't a
see,
product
you
issue.
postponed it, very good. So you want to budget for these consoles to purchase them in 2023?
That was the original goal. I think that we will push this to 2024. I do have one demo and quote right now. I should have another one next week. So it's gives me more time to actually go out to more vendors and see what options they have as well.
So the flooring's part of the problem, these consoles will clearly hold for another year and a half.
Well, there's some functionality that's starting to fail with them. The controls on,
So that's
the lifts and whatnot, they're all broken. We have to be very careful when we use them in order to get them to work. But I do think that we can make it another year. We've been operating on these since 2005, so we've long outgrew or outlasted the warranty on these. Yeah.
But we like delaying it for a year.
So, while we do, we should think supply chain. So is that something you should order? Should we be looking at purchasing them in 23? You've got them?
That's a good question. I do, like I said, I do have one quote and I have another demo next week. I can get the information from both those vendors to see how their supply chain is working. I didn't have any indication from the first vendor that there would be any delay, but you know how it goes.
What's the timeline? Let's say you want to order those for delivery early spring, February, March.
If it was early, I would say 4 to 6 weeks would be what we would want to order them by.
And you probably would have a better answer as we get to that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to coordinate the flooring to be put in first, which would be maybe middle of winter,
Could be.
January, February, and at that same time, order for a 4 to 6 week or 8 week delivery and have it kind of coordinate that aspect.
Yeah,
So,
it's a fun project.
well, as you get closer, and if you need to order in 2003, it still could come out of the 2004 budget, when you take delivery and by the time it gets paid.
It's a good thought.
It's gonna be timing, basically.
Yes, I agree.
How do you function if you're pulling your consoles out to carpet?
Yeah, if we have to go to the mobile command vehicle, we would have radio, CAD, and telephone capabilities inside the comp van. So the Nomad positions that we bought for mobile 911 call taking, we can utilize those. We do have network connection into the server for CAD use, and then the mobile command already has the radios installed in it, so we can page and communicate on the radios.
If all that train Travis County.
We can still do that, yes.
You referenced the mobile command unit. Just a couple of years ago, there were some issues needing upgrades and repair. Has that been taken care of?
It has, the generator seems to still be finicky from time to time, but when the engine is running, we don't necessarily need the generator. So we would be able to function without that capability.
In case
But
of an emergency,
in case
are
of-
you able to function too?
Yes, yes.
Anything else on that before we talk about the next software meeting?
Let's bring that back later in the budget discussion. You should think maybe about.
And they might be able to give you a quote that says this is good through a certain
They
day,
usually do.
so.
Yeah,
maybe
it's like
that'll help us out
120
with time.
days typically, so.
Yeah.
Have an idea, little month or so, maybe?
Mhm. Yeah, I'll keep in contact with Jared and we'll be able to work with that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
About the software maintenance renewal.
Okay, this was another fun issue. I was thinking ahead in order to put the annual maintenance into this year's budget. So I contacted Motorola before our invoices came due and they gave me a quote. And I incorporated that quote into the budget. Unfortunately, they didn't include all of our needs. They only did like 1/3 of what we use. So when we received the invoice, it was much larger than what I expected. And we had some discussions. Motorola eventually agreed to just move forward with what I had in the budget this year. So that is what we paid. We're working on some agreements in order to spread out the difference over the next few years. So right now, over the next 2 years, we're going to see an increase of $8,500 for the maintenance agreement on top of what it normally would be. But I am working with Motorola in order to get into a 5-year maintenance agreement. We have this in place for our radio equipment, our consoles and dispatch. So it's not a new concept to Motorola. Unfortunately, it's a new concept for the Spillman CAD product. So they're just working through that internally. I am confident by next year we'll be able to figure out a 5-year agreement and have that extra money spread out over 5 years instead of 2. But right now we do have the additional money budgeted into the 2023 amendment right now.
Was the 8,500 each year or total?
Each year,
For 2 years.
over 2 years, yeah.
Over 2.
That's 85 a year.
So Jared, Jen, what you're thinking we need to plan on for this?
You said it was already in next year's budget?
Yes.
So we're all
So
set?
should be fine.
Should be good. And hopefully I have good news for you by the budget next year and we'll have it over 5 years instead.
Well, unless there are any other questions, you're leaving here as a real hero.
That's nothing wrong with that.
Any questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And now we have Parks and Recreation, and Melinda and Rick are on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and Steve is here going to give us an overview.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I believe the paperwork's in front of you. So at our budget meeting, we put these numbers together. We've kind of 2 sections. Standard line item type sections running to a total for capital outlay of 54.5, and then a special item, the paved loop trail at Miles Kimmerly has been talked about and on our minds at Parks and Rec for years on end, and we decided to make an ask of the county board to see if we can get the ball rolling. From the quote from Elmer's that you have too, it's obvious that amount wouldn't get the whole thing. The idea generally is to do as much as we can with what we get. We may have some capability of bringing some other money in once we get this money from the county board. But anyway, that was the meaning and the idea behind the ask.
On page 119, in addition to the memo we have 119 in our supplemental. Okay.
So help me here. So everything but the loop trail Is that within your budget for this year?
The
And that's what you
approved capital
guys-
outlay for 2022 is 45,000.
Okay, so in that list, you're exceeding what you were allocated by 9,005.
Correct. It would be an increase for
For the
2023.
23 budget, I believe we have the 54,500.
Is it in there?
54,500 is asked
Yeah,
for 2023.
yeah, the 22 budget is what you were looking at. right
Oh,
there.
I see.
So you're wanting to increase 9,500.
Well, we're having new capital outlay in 23 of the 54,500. What he was looking at.
I was
the
looking at the-
23, so we're not exceeding 22.
Yeah, I was reading 22, 23, I
included in
apologize.
next year's.
But who said that 54?
The 54.5 is in one of the handouts on the second page.
I mean, who said that? Come on.
Oh, that's Parks and Recreation's request for
That's the
2023.
request.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, that's just all those projects. So for Mouse Kimberly, it's park and plan design, standalone kiosk, Old Settlers, new docks being made, sideline parking for safety. The purple toilet enclosure for Veronica Valley, prairie restoration, that's prairie grasses we've been working on, and then viewing platforms, which were in the original plans when we purchased that park. So that all comes at 54.5. So that would mean our capital outlays up a little bit from what we've been asking for the last several years. The flip side of that is that for the last several years, our capital outlay hasn't changed. It stayed the same, and we're trying to operate 3 parks on $45,000. So that's why the loop trail is a separate ask. That's just going to have to be, we hope, gifted from the county parks or the county for Parks and Recreation. Perhaps out of some ARPA dollars, because that's been a highly popular idea, a highly requested idea. It occasionally comes up on social media, and the comments are incredible. It's very, very popular idea for Leelanau County to have that loop over there for a number of reasons. So I see the quote comes in at 235 though, so that would even still be a little bit short, but
Okay, so I wasn't done quite, but so thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Are the dock sections run?
Without maintenance here, I'm trying to remember what was said. I think they're old wood and heavy and getting close. Is that, do you remember?
We have
what now?
relatively new docks there compared to the old wood ones we used to have. These are
These are not wood.
these are
Yeah, I better not say
what
anymore.
think.
I'm not remembering exactly.
But they're probably getting old though, but there might be some resale value, because I'm sure they're not wood anymore.
Which dock are you talking about?
Oh, at Old Settlers.
It is wood.
The one that goes out there is wood.
It's wood. There are wood planks on the top, you still have the metal on the sides, but it's wood. It is wood, and it's very, very creaky.
So it sounds like we do need new.
Well, I guess.
It was,
I'd
it was
like
end
clarification.
of life is what I was getting the impression at the meeting.
Okay.
That's what I was kind of surprised, but it came up and
Well, I would trust that if they say that, somebody feels that's true. I guess we need to know exactly why $10,000 is not enough.
$10,000 to replace the dock at Old Settlers? I can tell you in the dock business, that's a little light.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 7 sections is 10K at my place, and I know you're well more out than you're a 7-section patio, I think, if I remember. I mean, there was like 20
Yeah,
of
there's-
us on the edge of that patio. There's
We
a
do
lot.
some of it, some of it still works. I was sure we had bought some new dock sections maybe 8 years ago.
You may have.
We'll get some, how about we revisit that?
okay,
Something like
I'll put that down here.
Yeah, let's get a
And I guess one
verification.
more thing, sorry.
Yeah, but
And my comment on the loop trail is that sounds like it's very, very nice, and I hope somebody's willing to fund that, but long as District 6 and Sullivan still don't have broadband, I can't see. Any of the trails.
I have a question. Gwen asked you about the 54.5, and that's not 54.5 from what we usually spend for capital outlay. It's an increase of how much from what's usually in the budget, capital outlay for the park.
9,500.
So you're asking for 9,500 more than you had last year.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
That was where I was heading originally, yeah. And, yeah,
Jen?
Yeah, I see 10. 45 was the request for 2022, and they want 55.
Any other questions?
I was trying to remember from the MAC conference, and I don't have that folder in front of me, but there were a couple of sources for for park improvements, and it seemed like trails was in there. Can you talk to Julie Clark to see if she had some clever ideas or?
that's a good question. No.
Okay. And they're experts on trails.
We have not fared very well with the grants for Parks and Recreation. We've spent a lot of time over several years, and I don't think we have anybody's attention on that. Was that correct? Melinda, would you concur?
Say
I
that's
know,
correct.
I know Don, Mike Smith, when he was on the board, they were working with the DNR
Mhm.
or park or something, and
DNR.
I don't know where that, but I do know it wasn't gonna happen until 24. But on the loop trail, I know when I first approached Elmer's, that was just over the phone, and it's like 1:30.
I know.
That came from one of the main guys there.
Well, I found it interesting that they're gonna scrape off
A foot of
12 inches of topsoil and stockpile it. And that's an awful lot of topsoil.
Well,
And I'm pretty surprised that there's that much there, I guess. But anyway,
I don't have time to calculate that, but that's gonna be a lot of yards if we stockpile that on our property and resell it. That would probably make up the $30,000 or $40,000 difference from the 190 to the 234. I mean, it's one avenue, but another avenue too is have we bid it out to anybody else?
no. No, that's the only one we have here at this point in time.
I think it's the only
So,
one we- I think it's the
Obviously,
only one
it would go out to bids.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Steve or Jared or Jen on Parks and Recreation? Keep your notes and we'll be making our recommendations at a meeting. Thank you. Now we have Drain Commission. Now it's your turn. Thanks for being here.
And these out maybe? You've already seen this.
We must say, Steve, you're brave to come forward today with this, but
Well, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
thank you.
So I guess we could do a quick update as to where each district is and then go to questions. Lake Bluffs came in extraordinarily high, a 30% bump over a year and a half, 2 years previous. Big surprise for everybody. One bid in and I rejected it. Glad I did at that point in time. Looking to go back out to bids in the window, end of December through end of February is an ideal time frame for going out to bid for companies to get projects into their next year. So that's kind of where that is. Brian and I spent a couple hours today looking at other projects in the county, plus driving and talking through Lake Bluffs, and made several decisions that's going to really simplify the project and reduce the cost. So between going for more bids ideally and reducing cost on project going in, that's going to be good news overall for Lake Bluffs. Timberley, we're at the easement phase. Brian is getting docs to me. I believe 3 easements are necessary on that project, so we'll be working through those. Time will tell. Easements can take a long time.
So none of these are Leelanau.
Correct. That's just a reference as to, that is Brian has put together. Brian, maybe you can.
Yeah,
speak
these
to
are
what
just the last 30 drain petitions that I've have worked on, so I just pulled. And they're from multiple different counties, so you can see how each county, you know, they're sorted by project size, so from the smallest overall assessment size to the largest, so they range anywhere from $120,000 project in Berry County to a $12.6 billion project in Ingham County. So Lake Bluffs is in the range of 700 to 800,000 as we currently had it.
I think something like this could be handy for Leelanau County. I think that'd be very interesting to see, like as far as to date.
Well, this is basically costs and how they're allocated in regards to the assessments for the cost of the
I have
drain.
ballparks for you, Melinda, if you want, I'm interested, if you want to take notes. Do you want to open up to your budget book and then write notes there, or?
No, not yet. I was just saying this could be very interesting if you did just for Leelanau. I know you couldn't fill it in entirely, but you could get a whole lot of this information on just the drainage trends in Leelanau.
Well, I think there's only one district in Leelanau County
that's
completed.
close to this point. That'd be,
Right.
that's the one that we just saw come in at 700 and
It was 785,000 was our total.
was the one bid that we got on that project.
Well, that was total cost for everything, but yeah.
Right, total cost, not just the bid.
Yeah, so there's only one drain that I believe Steve has that, and it didn't go through an assessment process like this, that's my understanding.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to fill in all the columns, but you started, is what I'm saying. You could do each of the 5. You wouldn't be able to fill all the columns in, but you could fill in some of the columns.
The only thing you'll be able to fill in is what you've allocated, what has been spent to date on them. Yeah,
You could have townships, you could have county at large.
all those percentages and stuff are determined at the end. Assessments.
I think if you want, if possible, I have cost allocations here, and then if you want, myself or Jared and Steve to get together and put a spreadsheet that's similar to this. It wouldn't tell you everything, but we could put the drain name, how many years it's been going, and what the expenses are to date for you. Or that's what they're.
Yeah, you can
We
make
could
like
make
the-
columns,
And
yes.
maybe Brian could do that. I mean, I just
Yeah.
ran it from like your bills, you know, how
Right.
we separate
Yeah.
it. But is that, they could insert, I'm sure Brian probably has all the records.
Do you have copies of that?
I could certainly, or like we're saying, we could put it in an Excel spreadsheet and then just verify.
That'd be perfect.
Because I have one bill that Jared got here in August and it's not been appropriated to a project, so I was gonna have the staff look into that. It's in contractual services and it was $6,200, which I figure is not your general.
That's the
services.
general services one,
You
yeah.
did have an invoice for
Mhm.
that? Okay, so we'll have to up that then if that contract changed in 22, because we don't have enough allocated for that. We
I'd
only
have
have
to look at,
10,000
I'd have to
total.
look at that.
Yeah, so
Okay,
just look into that.
Is that just through?
That's till, yeah, that's through the year, because there hasn't been over 10,000
When
on that
did that come through though?
in August.
In
It
August,
was
it's a
just,
$6,200 bill.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll have
So
to
we
look
can-
at that.
Yeah, so we can look into that then and then.
Yeah,
So
Obviously.
you would like to request then a spreadsheet of the drains up to date?
Everything spent on them, where they are, yes.
Does that sound?
Yeah, what I'll give you is basically like, because some of them have, we'll put like the easements, because we separate our costs, because you have to for the, when you fund these for easements, permitting, and then we have design. So that's how we keep our costs separate too.
Question. Commissioner Robbins?
Maybe it's so much you guys are talking about right now, but I mean, I look at this in the spreadsheet, it's great information, but it's all south of 96. I mean, is there any a spreadsheet that you can make for, you know, like surrounding counties, what we're doing up here, what the cost is?
Well, this is basically, yeah, I'm sure you could. I know that there, I mean, I work on solely on drains, so these are just stuff that I can pull, and it's easy information because I work in multiple counties and different drains. I don't know, you know, Grand Traverse counties they have started several of them, but Benzie doesn't have any. Manistee has done some,
So that's
but
why we had to go.
right, so this is just easy because I'm able to pull, and so I work with these counties. I know how much, and we put this together because we're trying to give the board some idea on how much county typical percentages on a project and how much township typical percentages, and then how much is allocated typically to residents on a project. So that was the purpose for it, was to give some idea of, this is how other drain commissioners treat the assessments on projects, just to give them some idea. So, because I think initially on like Lake Plus, we had the county at like 11%. And, you know, the average is like 18.2 for counties of these 30 projects. So we're just trying to give some idea for the county and what is typical, basically.
Other questions? I think it'd be helpful to have that spreadsheet that you're talking about. The challenge, right?
And just to reiterate, and Steve he has some stuff to finish on the update, but just to reiterate the cost. You know, every county, like all these counties, for example, Drain Commissioner has a revolving fund, so they pay all their costs out of the revolving fund. The county essentially acting as the revolving fund for the Drain Commissioner in this particular case. So these costs at the end, it is then financed out and assessed like we started with Lake Bluffs, and then is percentaged out to property owners, townships, or the county. And those are the entities that pay those costs. So the theoretical is that if the county, if they've expended $50,000 to pay for our costs and costs for easements and permitting, that those 50,000 will then get reimbursed back to the county, even though the county will have a percentage to pay on the particular project.
I don't know very much about this, but I know I live on a private road on a big hill that probably should have never been developed. I don't get any help in the repairs for fixing it and preventing the damage to the road below. And I think we need to give serious thought to special assessment district paying a significant portion of these expenses, if that's possible.
Right, and on the Lake Bluffs, the property owners were paying with the notices that were sent out, they were paying 78%, which is probably the highest. I mean, if you look in here, I don't see any higher. So of all the last 30 I've done, that was the highest allocation for any property owners paying.
Well, and to tag on to what you said, at the meeting we had several months ago, it was brought up that we need to look at zoning in townships that allows builders to build in property where there is probably going to be a problem, and then everyone else pays while the builder makes money, the township continues to collect the taxes, and everyone else pays for that. So that's probably we need to look at that whole picture. I know getting the township planning commissions too. This one's a tough one.
I mean,
but
I mean,
I'm not sure
yeah.
everybody should pay while people are profiting.
I mean, I had a county drain commissioner, this is several drain commissioners ago in Calhoun County, that sent out notice to every township in the county that said, if you do not send your development to our office for review for drainage, and a petition precipitates from it later, you will pay 100% of the cost. Not the residents, which the drain commissioner can determine that, but on an allocation for, you will pay 100% of the cost.
I don't know why we're not doing that here in Leelanau now.
Can we,
So this was that particular drain commission, because in that time, I was working, we had several petitions that originated because just bad developments. You know, they were trying to put in, they were zoned for walkouts, or excuse me, for lookouts, and they put in walkouts.
can we
And,
enforce that, what you just said? I mean, it sounds,
I mean, the drain commissioner has the ability to determine if a township, they make that determination. If a board of determination determines a petition necessary, the drain commissioner has to make a determination and necessity as to if the at-large, meaning the township, should pay a portion or all of the costs. I've never worked on a drain where they paid all the costs. They always option to pay a portion of the cost, in which they'll determine later, but they determine whether the township can pay 100% of the cost. So in that case, that was just one of the drain commissioner in that county. This is between 2008 and 2012. They sent that out to all the townships because we had several petitions that originated because of developments in the 80s and 90s that were just bad developments that had gotten put in, and they, you know, should have had just some basic reviews at the time would have probably taken care of the issue. But it got to that point and they were so frustrated with it, they just said, if you do not send your development for our office for review, and a petition precipitates from that, you will pay 100% of the cost going forward. I'm not going to assess the residents or anything like that, because by that time the developer's long gone. Everyone that's made money from a project is long gone, and the bearing the brunt of the cost is on the residents that are living there now. Which, if you buy a new home or a new property, I mean, you assume that everything is fine.
Well, which is one thing for the future, and it really isn't us as townships to have to take care of their zoning, and I trust that some of them will be. But the question is, these developments that are there, and who should pay for them? And therein lies the discussion. You look at Lake Bluff. Nobody's benefiting from that except people who live on Lake Bluffs. Now, so you said that it's washed over the road several times. I have never seen that. I believe you, but if that's the case, then you get back to the road commission, and then the road commission has to pay a portion of this too, because that's the only reason we're looking at this, is because you said it runs over the road. If it runs over the road, you gotta include the road commission in that one. And at one time you said something about Schaumburg being the road issue too, down there on 22. So I don't know if the highway maybe should have to pay for it.
They on that one they will.
Yeah,
Schaumburg will be paying for that one,
Yeah.
and on South Park.
But you know, like these others you mentioned, you up on, well, by any other township that, you know, doesn't benefit from these should have to pay anything. It's beyond. So I like the idea of it just going back to who benefits from it when at all possible.
Yeah, MDOT will be involved with South Bar Lake and with Schaumburg.
But in the case of like Lake Bluffs, none of the residents that live out there now had bought when the property was originally split and developed and all that when it went in.
Yeah, there was an assumption that the road would
Who said something about, you know, not-
last, and that road, the way it was put in, would not last without really heavy duty maintenance, and they did not do heavy duty maintenance. And by the time that we got to this point, the obvious fix is to have a paved road there, which probably should have been there to start with. Under today's ordinance in the county, it would have been paved, but back then it didn't. So It was one that got put in and it's finally coming completely apart. And when we get heavy rains, fire and rescue do have a hard time getting in. So it's gotten to me, which, you know, I'm kind of the last resort in the fix-it world as far as these drainage districts go. And we went through the really wet years and these fell into my lap. And
That takes
So-
us to page 118 and your request to take a look at compensation.
right, I didn't finish all of the updates. Maybe real quick, South Bar is close. I'm now, the district is, and I'm the holder of the easements that are on either side of the outfall of South Bar Lake. We're very close to a decision there. Brian and I will be talking with the owners of the property on either side of the current outfall. Lake Bluffs, we've been over, Timberlake, we've been over, Schaumburg. We're getting Robin Schmidt from Eagle will be talking with the state representatives with regard to wetlands and streams to get an idea whether we can move forward with our ideas with regard to the fix there. That one's been taking the longest time. It's the most complex that we have. As far as compensation percentages, I've gotten a chance to see where the percentages lie and where they did and where we're heading. So I've quizzed Brian and really I wanted to see, you know, what do other drain commissioners do? What do other counties do? Especially with regard to here in Leelanau, the initial petitions are expensive. The projects are hugely expensive. And, you know, how do we set percentages? Kind of settled on Livingston County as a model. They do 35% on the county for new petitions and in general. So as you can look through the percentages from the county on the sheet in front of you, they do vary. And as far as I'm looking at right now, for us in Leelanau, I'm believing that where we're going to be is not to exceed 30% on the county side.
15% county, 15% road commission?
Now Brian can talk to that.
Yes. So the road commission can pay out of Act 51 funds through Rule 14A, in which they can pay half of the county's percentage, yes. But they can pay up to half based upon Rule 14A, which is basically a mathematical formula of their runoff percentage versus the rest of the districts. In the case of like Lake Bluffs, that would be around 9%, 8%. So they could pay up to 9 or 8%.
What's minimum for
There-
counties?
There is no minimum.
So the county can say we're not paying any portion of this?
No, the county doesn't really have any appeal procedure as to the percentage that they pay projects.
What is the minimum? What is the maximum? Is it set?
No,
It's set? It's not set,
no, there is no minimum, there is no maximum.
but they have to pay something.
Yes, if there is county road right away in a district, they are pay for the benefit
So
to
who sets
county
that?
roads. The drain commissioner.
Drain commissioner picks the county's
Yes,
percentage?
yep. The drain commissioner determines the assessment percentages for the district. They determine the counties, the townships, and all the individual people in the district.
And see that your recommendation to be at 30% for the county.
Not to exceed 30. At times it'll be less.
That's why they say the drain commissioner is the most powerful person in the county.
So like South Bar is a district that Steve and I talked about where he could see the town or the county percentage being less than 30% because of the way that's what that has to do. As far as the way the district is set up and what the ultimate fix is in regards to a lake level and whatnot. So, but the idea of it, and if you look in the ones that have a little italic, the little ampersand next to it, those are new drains. Any of them in the county are essentially going to be new drains. You have much upfront costs are much higher on new drains because you have to establish the drain. So there is no essentially drain. You have to get the easements for anywhere that you're not in the road right away. And then 95% of the time you have to get an eagle permit because you're going to impact some inland lake or inland stream in regards to your project. So once those are established, once you have your easements and you have your eagle permit, you're allowed to maintain that drain ad infinitum as long as it was originally established. So the idea is that you have these upfront costs that are going to be higher when you first establish the drain.
Commissioner Rushton.
Okay, so I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. So, first of all, how did you get to 30%? Not to exceed 30%. How did you get that?
What I did is looked at the counties that are in essence setting their percentages high,
Look at what other
higher.
counties did.
Livingston sets at 35%.
Okay, so down there, this is all, these were all put in place for farmland. This is why they needed drains down south. That's what I imagine most of these are.
There's about half and half, I would say.
All right, so you just kind of looked at what other counties did and picked a not to exceed 30%?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I had to place it at some point, and that seems like a very equitable place to put it.
I would have to ask you how you got it to be equitable, but because I'm gonna have to get the price, but so how much for townships then? If you said county not to exceed 30, does a township have to pay the same amount as the county, or is that arbitrary?
That in my way of thinking is not to exceed 15%.
At the end, how did you get to 15%?
I had to choose a number. I was looking at the townships in our county. We have rural townships. They're not charter townships with the exception of one. So the methodology for raising money is limited. And it, in my mind, needed to be 15 or less.
So in the county, if you said not to exceed 30%, ends up 30%, the county can then stays it up to the board of commissioners. They have the road commission pay half.
The county will be speaking with the road commission and determining, you know, what part the road commission pays.
But they just tell the road commission how much they are going to pay.
That's up to you to determine if you want to collect half from the road commission.
Is it up to half?
It's up to half by the way of following, like I said, that rule 14A and Act 51. So they can pay up to half of that calculation.
Depending on the calculation,
Right.
what weighs into the calculation?
It's basically a determination of if 100 gallons fall on the district, how much percent are gallons coming off of the roadway is the easy way to look at it.
And so do you have an estimate, which Jen's gonna get us, well, what if we, like, what was the county on the hook for in drains for 21, 22? How much?
If you wanna look, did they give you a book or you wanna check it? So you're under resource and development, you're under internal services and transfer tab in your budget book, page 82 or 85. Oh, sorry, hold on, my bad, I was at Parks and Rec, so my bad, resource management and development. It's gonna be tab or page 70. And then on to page 71.
So in the white page.
Yeah, or, yes, I don't believe these were updated in the warrant for you. You don't mind, Jennifer?
We have 72, I don't have 7.
You can just give me
Okay.
a number.
Yep, all right, so if you're looking for 2021, let's say the Lake Bluff drain, it shows it was an audited figure of 40,688.68. If I look at Lake Bluff, since we started paying bills on August 13th of 2020, and again, Brian can put a spreadsheet together, I show that cost currently to date for the county is 57,220.
That's just the county's portion?
That's the, yes, that's our
But
expenses.
To clarify, that is like revolving fund dollars, so
Correct, yep,
it,
we don't have a revolving fund,
I know,
yep, so,
So it has cost the Leelanau County tax, that one drain has cost Leelanau County taxpayers $57,000 today.
correct, and by statute, you have to.
And by statute, we have to pay it.
Yes, South Bar is about 43,000. Timberlee is about 46, and Schaumburg is 35. So at some point, as Brian and Steve have said, when these come to districts, this is how you cap your funding, correct?
Correct.
right, so when we go to like Lake Bluffs, if we actually had gone through and financed it, all the money that the county had expended to date, once we finance it through our note, would get immediately paid back to the county. And then the county's assessment, they can decide to go and pay it, because we were gonna do a 20-year note, they can pay it out yearly, they could pay it off at a one time.
Pay it out. It's still coming out of their pockets.
I understand, but the money that's been expended to date would be it's just it's essentially a revolving fund, but I understand that they don't have it set up that way.
Commissioner Rushing.
Couple questions. Going back to the allocation, the 30% to 15%. So is the homeowner then paying 55%? You were talking.
Yeah. That would be their,
That'd be Lake Bluffs.
right.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. We put these dollars out as you do your research on these drain districts. What happens when the homeowners reject this? Do they have the option to reject not putting this forward?
Yeah, so a petition goes,
If they pull their petition and.
right, if a petition goes to a board of determination and they say, and the board determines it unnecessary, then it's rejected. If it passes a board of determination, it essentially goes to Steve. He can essentially, there is a way to sit on it for up to 5 years. You can abandon a petition, but petitions are basically good forever.
So the point that I'm making is, once we put $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 into these districts, and the request is abandoned, that's our loss, right?
No, you would essentially assess it out. Like if Steve said, listen, there's no, it went to a board of determination, determined necessary, and he said, it gets through and the issue gets resolved, we've had them like where lakes are really high and they come down and now there's no issue. So all your costs to date, you would assess them out in the same manner. So then the county would be on the hook for up to 30% of that total.
So.
If it was abandoned,
If it was abandoned.
So today.
but the homeowners can't abandon it.
The board of determination abandons it. And who is that?
The board of determination determines it unnecessary. The drain commissioner can abandon it after 5 years.
The board of determination already determined that it was a viable.
Who's the
all of
board?
them. The board of determination is a board of 3 members and 1 alternate of my choosing, disinterested landowners who do not have property in the district that's being determined. And those board of determination meetings happened for each of the districts, and each of the districts were found to be in need.
Are they the
So-
same
So
members? for each
Who
district?
serves on that board with you?
Yes,
Steve is not on the board. They has zero determination in regards to.
Who are they?
They're different for each of the, I mean, I know like, on one of them, we had Rich Bailey, sorry.
What are their qualifications?
All of the qualifications according to the law is they need to own land in the county. They cannot have an interest in land in any of the townships that would be assessed for the drain district.
I'd like to.
So they have to be people that don't live in those townships.
So we'll get a.
Rich Bailey, Gary Frederickson, Bob Hawley. And we had an alternate. But those three served on all three.
So
Rob
they-
Chapman is the alternate.
Without proving it, so basically the board of commissioners is on the hook for $250,000 to date for these drain districts that we did not get to say your name to. So, and this is just the beginning. So for $250,000, those bills have been yours and other engineering. What have we got for that today? What's that money gone for? What's that $250,000?
The primary cost of that is probably 85% of it would be paid to. Yep. But you have to pay for all the notices and you have to pay the board of determination numbers and,
Oh, so the board of determination, the members got paid?
yeah, I think they get like $40 or.
They're eligible for per diem is all.
Question on the proportion between townships and county. Road Commission uses a 50-50. If there's a secondary road in a township, the Road Commission won't fix it unless the township comes up with half of the amount. Seems to me that townships have a lot of power in determining zoning and approvals. And maybe we ought to look at the proportion between county and township and share that at the same ratio the Road Commission does with the townships. If there's an issue in a particular township, wouldn't it make sense that it'd be 50-50?
If a township has funds or the availability to raise funds, like certain townships have revenues, other townships do not, and they also are in the same boat as county is. Surprise, you're on the hook for,
Townships have almost no.
well, I know my townships don't have any extra money.
But it is the townships that are approving the plans.
But these went through before there was.
Quite a long time ago.
Yeah, real zoning. So that's why
Yeah,
I wonder why. people aren't.
I know that in
Why we're on the hook for 'em.
Yeah, in Solon right now, if you go for a land use permit, you have to come and get a soil erosion control permit. So Solon and there's one Leland, Solon and Leland both are in that boat. I wouldn't be surprised to see the whole county go that route to tighten up and have fewer entities fall through on the soil erosion control side. But the ordinance is in place for the county, so all of the larger projects have to go through engineering that Brian is doing from the backside on this project. And engineering is not cheap, and it should have been done before, but all of the projects I'm involved in are expensive. I'm, like I said, on the last resort to fix some of these things. And all of the issues that have to be looked at are expensive to do. Doing a drainage district is not the most reasonable way to go through it. Most reasonable thing to do and economical is to go ahead and get it fixed within the community it's happening in. That group of people, along with the township or whatever, just get it fixed in that level don't try to do a drainage district. That's the most expensive way to fix this situation.
I agree.
It is, it's horribly expensive.
It's the first.
We got a problem, we all have a problem, right? I mean, it's a challenge. How do we proceed? What do we need to do? And what do we want for the next step? I mean, we don't have a lot of options, right?
There's not gonna be anything.
And
There's no budgeted figures.
yeah, my lot is cast as far as where we're going. You know, as far as, you know, what, you've seen the numbers that have gone in. I don't know, Brian, maybe you could speak to where the projects are gonna end up compared to, say, Lake Bluffs, you know, just in general. I mean, we can't do numbers because we don't have numbers, but ballpark for the county commissioners to kind of get a feel for what they're up against.
I mean, we did the scope meeting, it's been a year ago now for Schaumburg, and the cost was around 600,000 for that, like 580,000. But that's, you know, Steve and I are trying to get this option that we know will be cheaper. It's just, that's where we're at on that. We held an initial scope meeting for South Bar Lake, and that was to give different options in regards to keeping of this outlet in the current location, moving it. Steve's made a decision to keep it in the existing location. Once we talked to the landowners there, we were given the easements, so they were transferred to us. We don't have to get any easements, but that is probably in the range of, could be as low as like 300,000 to maybe $500,000 on the high end. Timberley, we only have 3 easements, which is a good thing, but we're just sending out those on that one. That is gonna be cheaper than Lake Bluffs, probably between 400,000 to 500,000 total.
Conceivably, 800,000 to $1 million for our share.
Oh, total you're talking about? With 30% of those up to, you know, like I said, South Bar, I know we're probably not looking at the county to be at 30% on that one. That one does have 4 other at-large entities on it, including the state highway. And so does Schaumburg has state highway, which they've agreed to pick up an additional amount on that job, so.
Could you remind me where in Timberlake that they're talking about?
Right on the township line, basically, that Timberley Hills Drive extended, which is down,
Not Josh.
yeah, so it's Mount Josh starts on the north part of where we would end. So we would go up to Mount Josh there.
And then curl up to the sub.
Commissioner Lautner?
So quick question, you've got drains you're trying to get in, would Timberley involve Elmwood?
Yeah, that's Elmwood and.
That'd be the
and so-
largest,
Solid.
the largest percentage. of
Right,
that
it's
one would be
Elmwood.
in
You got them
Elmwood.
in Stolen, you got them in Elmwood, Centerville?
A piece of Centerville is in.
Very small pieces
And,
in Schaumburg.
Okay, what other
Leland,
townships?
Leland.
Leland's the
Leland is
majority of
the
that
main-
one.
You got 4 townships, you're working on drains,
Well, then we have South Bar is
Empire.
Empire
Empire,
and Village of Empire, which is townships and villages are basically the same in the drain world.
so, like, say, none proposed for Leelanau Township,
Correct,
none
Right.
proposed for Caston Township,
correct,
Right,
none proposed for Bingham Township,
correct,
none proposed for Sutton's Bay Township,
correct.
and none proposed for Glen Arbor.
None for Glen Arbor.
So by picking your number at 30%, you're asking those townships to pay that much towards these other townships' benefits, right? So that's, I really, I
the-
don't like that up to 30% for the county. I just think it's very unfair. the greatest majority has to fall back on those who are gonna benefit, which is the homeowners that live up there, who chose to live up there. As opposed to, the castle that I can't imagine a drain district ever being anywhere down there.
Well, we're not going to make a decision today, but it is a challenge. And it's hard to budget for something if you have no control on expenditures and costs. Before we leave though, Steve, on page 118 of the supplemental information, you requested a look at compensation. Could you, I mean, we've had that conversation, but could you share what you're thinking?
The districts have, generating and starting districts has consumed a big part of my life in the last few years, and it's increased. It is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. And it's taken me an extraordinary amount of time. At 14,500, I felt that if I didn't ask for a raise, I wouldn't be fair to myself. So that's the thought behind it. And
Your current salary is 14,500.
14,500 is.
And how many hours a week on average are you working for? Drain Commission?
It runs anywhere from 15 on up per week. Some maybe a little bit less, but interestingly enough, as I go through all of the soil erosion control plans that I'm doing at this point in time, all of the larger ones, I've got my Drain Commission hat on. So if you look at the hours spent for soil erosion control, I'm also performing Drain Commission work there too. So yeah.
What?
Are there any circumstances where you're getting a per diem as well?
No.
Okay, so that's covered.
Questions for Steve?
Healthcare though. Full
That's
benefits.
big, yeah, healthcare is big. We get that through my Drain Commission position.
Any questions?
It comes out if he's doing 15 hours a week times 52 hours, 780. And so it's about $18 an hour.
So about, take that and divide it 5,000 by that.
Correct. He receives health insurance, yes.
Yes. So, and what are you asking an increase to? I never did find it. You increased
I
to
don't
what
have it in front of
figure?
me. Shannon,
Oh, I didn't grab that supplemental, sorry. Does he have it?
+5.
They want support, so plus the 5, so it's 14,
19.
so 19.5. And then Tuesday night, he got 3%.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Brian. Any last questions for? Got a lot to go home and think about when we're done with this today.
So Jen, if I could get a clarification, his 14.5 was increased 3%, that last raise. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for your time. Thanks.
Ed is here with all sorts of information for us. I feel like we're going kind of fast. Is everybody okay with what we're doing here? I mean, we're just collecting information today.
I'm just getting started.
Uh-oh.
Did she wish?
I'm in the hot seat now.
We said we had to end it. No. I missed that. We've got a minute.
where would you like to start? Want me to just go through my capital outlay over 5,000?
Okay.
First item I have listed on here under IT projects. This one was just kind of a guess, really, because I knew I needed to put something in for next year. Because I know there are going to be things that we need to do, especially for the Wi-Fi, but I don't have any details yet to back it up, so that's what I put in there. Next item, new website. I think that's in the works. The RFP is out there. Don't have any feedback yet as to what costs may be, but I think that's the maximum cost at this point.
So this is just to design a website, or would this be for, like, they say that a website should be updated no less than, like, I forget the number exactly, but twice a month or something. So would this be updated by you after it's put on or built?
Well, I believe the intention is to have somebody come in and redesign, migrate all of our content over. They're going to host it, and it was stipulated in there to do kind of a refresh every few years.
Few years, maybe we can negotiate that.
I'm sure we can.
They
Yeah.
would, okay, that was my question.
It's going to include,
Yeah.
training and maintenance and all those sort of things
Yeah.
too. So
So on the phone system, I just have a question for clarification. You're meaning a phone system to adapt to the Wi-Fi or everyone's phone at their stations?
a completely separate project.
Right, because we have our own telephone fund system and cost allocation. So on the IT side, what would be the phone system?
Okay, I guess I'm not entirely sure because I don't know what all goes into the phone system fund.
Everything that has to do with telephone?
Okay, then that should probably come out of there.
Sweet.
Would we forget the 40,000? Would we leave that? Or would we take that out of?
Put it
just
into
a different
the,
budget?
Right.
Right,
And they
right.
just have to adjust the telephone fund
Well,
budget.
part of that will be for the Wi-Fi.
So we would just separate those two then.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
Okay, good.
What was the amount for the website? Redesign?
We have 50,000 listed.
The high end.
That's the high end, yes. I would anticipate it to be more like 30 to 35, I think.
And then it would be maintained by staff, existing staff, right?
Existing staff would certainly edit the content. Well, I mean, each department would update their own content. I would be probably one of several administrators, help with technical aspects and that sort of thing.
yeah, like I can get on and update our finance section.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You don't want me to update every department stuff because I just don't know what they're all doing.
We might want you to.
Well, you might, but I'm gonna say no. So the next item was the event tracker software that Safety Net has implemented. Actually, that should probably be more under the contractual services category because they're gonna roll that into their contract. So that wouldn't be a separate capital outlay. The next two items are actually going to be combined together. It's part of the VMware server upgrade project that we actually brought to the board last month. The reason I have it in for next year is because it's almost October already, I kind of anticipate that it's not going to be completed and paid for within this year. So I wanted to make sure I could account for it for next year.
Okay, so backtrack for me. So the 70 and the 7 combination of 23 and 24, or I mean 22 and 23? What you
It's
just purchased?
what we're just about to purchase is,
Yeah.
this is in case it's not completed and paid for within this year.
Okay, so how that works is, once you start the project, and if it's a project in total, then it would be a 2022 budget item.
Okay,
So for Jared, if the project, you start that server replacement in 22, he has to do what's called a CIP. It's a construction in progress into our assets. And then the rest of it is finished into 23 for depreciation. But the total cost would be captured in 22's budget.
okay.
So is that from the last couple? So he and I have to go through meetings.
We can look
then.
and see whatever's been
You'll-
invoiced through.
This year's
22.
budget will have to be adjusted. So are you thinking the 70,700, right, is actually started now
Yes,
and would not be 23?
yes.
Great.
And we had just looked at your budget. Do you have enough in there for 22?
No, but you can fix that.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
You can fix that. I had,
Looking for a carryover into next year,
last time I looked, I had 78,000 in that fund
remaining or spent.
remaining.
Okay.
Not enough, but he'll work on that.
Yep.
It's
but
pretty
that
darn
helps.
close, though,
That helps a
so-
lot.
Okay, you can make a minor
Okay,
adjustment for that.
This 71,72 is actually being spent in 2022.
Yes,
Both of them?
yes. And then the last item is just new workstations. At the maximum would be 30. Just to replace them as they age out.
Installed all these workstations that were downstairs? or
Not
just-
yet. I have some of them installed, but not all of
Oh,
them.
this is on top of those.
This will be, yes.
This purchase of them, not just installing them.
Yeah, just the purchase of them. And just because I can tell you I have, it currently, we have over 47 computers that are over 5 years old. So as they start to age out and be problematic, I have to get them replaced.
Very good.
And did you have a figure on community room upgrade?
The projector, I'm anticipating roughly about $1,000 to replace that projector.
How much?
1,000.
Does that take care of sound? This is the last few presentations we've had down there, sound didn't work. And display and the presentations. And
Okay.
so I think.
When you finish, you reminded me of something else, or maybe you're going there next.
Go ahead.
Okay, we were talking about this room, and the problem we have is that when we get, we're wondering about this. So when we see things here that you're presenting and you got it on this screen, the audience can't see it. So what we were wondering about was perhaps a screen like up there that the audience could see what we are seeing, either there or even monitors in front of us. Sometimes we don't get them on here, but a lot of it could be on a monitor right here. We didn't know what this would cost. We talked about it after the meeting, a few of us.
So you're talking about monitors that would show you what's on the screen or something
So we
else?
get a monitor, so whatever the presenter or chat puts to us here, then the audience could also see.
So like, for
Okay.
instance, Tuesday night, the airport did, or Wednesday night, they did a presentation and the Zoom was farther this way. So he's presenting and the audience can't see
Can't see it, okay.
anything. So we were discussing, like you said, after, could you have like a drop down screen or TVs up there that doesn't mess with the video, that people could then see the presentation being shared as well? You know,
Or if we had monitors, if you could just turn that.
right,
I always sat in the front
Or
seat
that's
so
a
I could see
possibility
it.
too.
Yeah. just
Yeah.
turn
Other
that
than, I
screen.
don't like that whole robot-y looking thing, but I don't know how to get away from it. It looks like-
But we have it already.
Maybe
so-
in each
it was a COVID purchase.
It's a
Yeah,
possibility.
So
I
then
know,
we
but
kind of
I
have
don't
one
want to
picked
robot.
out from each side.
Anyway, that's another thing to think about, especially if we got some of these, you're still within your projected budget, if we just.
That's right. We'll just, call it, allocate it to something else.
I just think that would be I think the audience would, or the public would really benefit from that.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay. Something else to
Anything
look at.
else for Leanne?
They'll come back. with some
Yeah.
different-
Okay.
The Ty was mentioning some upgrades to the community room.
Jared, you're going to speak to the next issue quickly, I think, the board book, general budget.
Yeah. So we haven't made, any of the updates left. As of right now, Jen and I had talked about trying to get the wages incorporated into this, and we're just not really sure that that's going to be able to happen. What we were thinking though is since John and I had proposed that, our revenues for next year for the taxes were much less than what came in on that L4029 is that next year in around May, when we get some actual figures, we'll do a budget amendment and put our revenues kind of where they should be. We were projecting in this budget book about $1 million less than what it showed. And then in that same amendment, upgrade all the wages to what they're actually going to be for the year. So we of course have the 3.25% increase already in these books. So we do show an increase, just not the most recent.
You know what, you guys are busy, you guys are this fall, so asking you to spend midnights doing that.
And that's what it was gonna be, you know, it was gonna be every fund would have to get updated.
It'll be more accurate.
And it'll be more accurate then, yeah, once we get a better picture for next year's our total revenues and expenditures, then we'll update it to those actual figures.
You did talk to Chad about that.
I did, I talked to him, yep, I talked to him this morning.
Everybody comfortable with that?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
thank you. We do have calendars before us. Yes, we distributed.
I can look.
Laurel, are you there?
Ty, I provided you with one room
Okay.
schedule for September and October.
What is it? September, October?
Okay, I have a calendar. So what we have to do is find some dates and then we'll check and see if Chad and the room and the clerk is available. So we have more meetings to schedule. Anybody want to suggest where our next budget meeting is?
October 21st.
Really?
Until then.
Is the 14th out for you? I think I'm okay.
Wow.
Are you going?
We have the 11th for administration.
Yeah.
Let's see, we're meeting, the BOC executive is on the 4th, right? We have interviews on the 7th. How about the 6th? 6th will work for me.
I can't do the 6th.
About the 12th?
It's open for me. I could do it in the morning, but I'd have to be gone by noon.
We could all give blood because it's the only thing going on in the building that day is the blood drive. But would you be available on the 12th, 9?
I'm not sure. 14th would probably be better for me.
I'm gone for that, from the 13th to the 18th.
I can try for the 12th. The morning, you say on the morning?
That's what Deb said.
I'm throwing it out there.
9 o'clock.
October 5th, October 6th.
No, I'm on a flight.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I can't make the 14th. I could make the 12th.
Okay, well, let's set it for the AM then.
Good.
12th at 9.
Okay.
And you said morning. Can you go till 1? Deb?
No.
12?
I have to leave at 12. You can stay on till 1 if you want, but.
What's there?
Okay.
And the 10th was no good, even though it's Columbus Day?
Does that mean that we start at 9 or 10? What's Deb's time?
We should start at 9 if we want to get a couple hours out.
Yeah,
It'll be
it's
3 hours.
I don't believe so.
When throughout the 10th? Is the 10th in the morning available?
Not for
No?
me.
Okay.
Not trying to sit. I can do 14th.
How about the 19th?
When are you leaving for the honor flight?
I'm on the whole of the 5th.
What about October 3rd?
No. Got something?
We have cherry pie debates that.
Good plan. I
This
could
would
do,
be
what
good
did you
practice.
say, the 19th, did somebody say? I could do the 19th. Or are you gone?
No, I'm here on the 19th. I can do the 19th.
I can do the 19th.
19th?
Would we be willing to do the 19th morning and
Yeah,
afternoon?
why don't we
Yeah.
try? Yeah.
So after 9 o'clock around 19?
Like 9 to 4 with a lunch break there someplace?
What if we start at 9:30?
Yeah.
Since it's gonna be all day long. 9:30? Or is that confusing? I don't care. I was already confused today, so it doesn't matter. I almost, because there was, I almost
9:30,
came, 'cause there was-
9:30 to 4:30 on the 19th?
Okay.
that works for me. It's because we got that notice for the other meeting that starts at 2. I saw that too, Deb. I had to check.
Explains it.
I think before you go on from there, if I may make a point, we'll have to figure out your topics, because this will be mostly what I see as decision-making meetings.
Pardon?
I see these as decision-making meetings. I don't think we have anybody else to present, do we?
We have to, we were gonna do an overview on the health department and downstairs and HVAC,
So Chet's topic.
Chet's stuff.
So Chet's topic would probably be the 12th from 9 to noon, and then decisions.
And then on the 19th,
19th. Mhm.
right?
And then that'd be like, you're going forward with the final copy then. Does that sound?
Does that timeframe sound good? So Chet will work on the agenda for the 12th, and anybody that wants something else on that agenda, send it to him. Okay,
Okay, for me, we didn't miss anything. There's not a date between the 12th and 19th.
No.
that all makes sense? Gary, you want to make some public comment?
Good meetings.
Commissioner comment? Wait till that here, the decisions we made from
That half
1:32.
hour.
1:32.
I'm not worried about it.